So this is my MVC project with Django. This is the home page. So it's grabbing all this stuff out of this database. I can add a user. Oh wow, okay. Let's start up it's called PyCharm. So you have to start up PyCharm so that it can start the WSGI server so that the website can run on it. But when I was setting it up for the first time, I did not have to do anything, and I did not have to touch the WSGI file or do any kind of setup with Apache or anything. It's all automatic. It was very nice. So this is my project test Django app, and I'm just going to hit the play button so we can get the server started up. And it gives you a link, and you click on the link, and here we go. Here's my website. So I'm going to add a user, an email, and a password. Submit, and he's added to the database. User, email, and password is hashed. That's not MD5, that's something else. And I can update, make it user1. So I made it if you don't type anything into the password, then it won't change the old one. So I'm going to update it again. Let's change the password to the QWE. Submit. And you can delete. I'll delete this R guy and the first guy. And let's update this one and make the email look more like a real email address. So I've got add, create, read, update, and delete. And so that's all happening. It mostly goes through the views file. This is my first one ever. I think most of this logic is supposed to happen in the models file with extra classes and functions attached onto each one of these. But this is how I did it this time. Let's see. So my home page uses a function called render to string to grab the template and change it into an HTTP request object, and it gives it to HTML, and then HTML just keeps adding on. It's becoming a string, and it's concatenating the string, and then at the end it turns it into an HTTP response. So every view, so home is a view, delete user is this view. Every view is responsible for returning an HTTP response object. So home does it, and delete user, it gets the ID of the person to delete. So user is the model, the database model of users, and so that was here. Class user. So a class represents a table in the database. So I'm asking for that table, and .objects gets all of the things in the table, but then I'm filtering by only objects where the user ID is equal to the ID, and since that's my primary key, there's only going to be one of those, and so I'm going to take that object and delete it, and then I'm returning this redirect. So redirect returns an HTTP response object, and I'm telling it where to go, and I'm just sending it back to the root URL in the browser, and that's where all the users are listed, which is this first one, home request. So all the users are listed by looping through. Well, let's see. Actually, I'm user model. I'm calling that, and then calling objects, which gets everything, and .all gives me everything. And I'm making a dictionary here, and I'm sending that dictionary in with the name of the template into the render to string function. So let's look at that template, home page user row. So it prints a table header, and I passed in a variable called all users. So in the template I have all users, and I'm looping through for user and all users, and each one of those is a row in my table, and so each row has these columns: user ID, username, email, password hash. And then I have a couple of links here for the update user link and the delete user link. And those go to admin update user and admin delete user. So we already saw delete user. Let's see, admin update user. So that would go through the URLs file, admin update user. So it's going to call the DB interaction app, the views file, and the update user form method. So update user form method. So here it is. Every method gets the request first, and then whatever extra parameters you send in from the URLs file second. So in this case, I'm immediately importing the user model, which represents my user table in the database, and I'm getting the user info because I'm going to need it in either one of these blocks of code. So user.objects gives me access to the inside of the table, but I'm only getting where user ID equals ID. And there's a shortcut. I could just say primary key equals ID. That would work too. But the name of my primary key is user ID. So I check the request to see if it's a post, which means that somebody has submitted something in a form, possibly. So in that case, I'm making a new variable called post, and I make a copy of that request, and I just do that so that when I write posts here 4 more times, it's less to write. But then this is a regular expression match, so I'm checking to make sure that at least one character is in the file. And so if they left it blank, then I assume they didn't want to change the password. This is when you update the user and you change something but you don't change the password and click submit. Assume you don't want to change the password, and this regular expression would fail in that scenario and it wouldn't run the second line. But if there is something in that password field, then I assume that you do want to change the password. And so I set the password equal to make password is what hashes the password. And I can send it more parameters here to tell it what algorithm to use and give it the salt. But if you don't do that, it uses default values. And then I'm setting the username equal to the username given to me by the posted form, and the email equal to the email address given to me by the posted form. And then I save it, and that's what actually sends the call to the database to write the information into the database. And this being a view, I have to return an HTTP response object, and redirect returns that object. So I return that object from redirect, and I just tell it. So after I've updated it, just go back to the home page where all the users will be listed again. So that's if the request method is a post. Otherwise, I assume it's a get or something else, and in that case they must be just looking at one user in particular. See the URL up here, update user 58. So in this case, I'm creating a user form, and this is that model I showed in the other video, the class user form. Model is set to user, and here's my user class, and so this form is this class makes a form based on the model here, and I'm specifying the fields I want to use, but it makes a form. So for example, I tell it to use email. Email is a car field. It should be an email field. Okay, that's interesting. That's probably why it wasn't validating. But it'll make a form that's appropriate to the fields in the database. Okay, and I'm sending in this parameter initial, and that's how I get the values pre-filled when you click on update for a particular user. I'm getting all the user info up here before I even check the if block, the if condition. So I send it ID, and I put that into a hidden tag for later, and the username and the email. Data. So this is the form that is made automatically. So I need to send that into my template. So I'm putting that inside a dictionary, and I'm also putting the ID inside of the same dictionary. So I render the header template, and then I render the update user form template, which is this one. So it's just a form tag. I put the ID and the action here. Also put the ID in the hidden tag. I probably don't need both of those. And then this is where the form, the auto-generated form, is stuck in. And I'm also I'm manually creating a password field because the field in my database is hashed password, and I just want the person to be able to type the password in, and then I will hash it myself. So going back to here, I add on to HTML the footer template, and then I turn it into an HTTP response object and return it. So let's see what else. Let's see what happens if I sync my database, because I changed this from a car field to an email field. So when you make a change in your database, you need to go back and run manage.py and sync db. Let's see if anything happened in the database. Still a varchar. So if you already have things in your database, I think it might not be able to change the structure of the database. So I'm going to try, I'm just going to delete everything. So now there's nothing in my database. And I'm going to sync the database again. Alright, still a varchar. So let's see if it validates now. Still lets that through. Well, I haven't figured that out yet, but it's still pretty cool. Still update and delete and create. Thanks for watching.